Hi, my name is Johanna Tanhuanpää and I'm here today to talk to you about why edible insects are a great business opportunity for the food industry and why they are an opportunity now rather than later. First, let's think about why protein supply would actually be a problem for the food industry. Now, as a starting point, we know that we're going to be over 9 billion by the year 2050. And this is going to be a problem because there's not going to be enough resources, not enough land, not enough water, other resources to produce food for all of us in a sustainable way. So this is a problem that affects all of us as human beings on this planet. But why is it a problem for the food industry? Well, the food industry, of course, is an industry that's very tangled up in global supply chains. And this is a factor that's going to cause problems with price and availability. There is going to be speculation about raw materials. There's going to be perhaps environmental disasters that's going to drive up the price. The availability is going to be shaky. There's an increased risk for frauds, for adulteration, contamination, things like that. So it is very much the food industry's problem. And why the food industry actually holds a key position is that they also have the possibility to solve this problem by using and promoting more sustainable protein sources. And of course, we're going to now present edible insects as a great sustainable protein source. But you might be thinking, why edible insects? Why not algae or bacteria or there's a whole host of plant-based proteins, pea proteins, for instance. Why not them? Why edible insects? Well, we're actually going to go through 5 reasons in this presentation why edible insects could be a great opportunity for the food industry to create new business. And let's get straight to it and start with number 1, which is that there's a growing market demand for high-quality protein. Now, the protein boom is something that's been around and been evident in the food industry for a good few years now, but there seems to be no end to this trend. And obviously, as developing countries are getting more and more middle class, there is going to be an increased need for high quality protein and more protein content in foods there as well. And if we look at new product launches globally, this is food, beverage, dietary supplements, we see that high protein as a claim is something that's been growing every year, and it's still growing and growing. And interestingly, simultaneously, there's a trend for launches that use both high protein and ethical and environmental as a claim. So that's a growing trend as well. Not just going for the high protein, but also wanting to secure that it's ethically produced, it's environmentally sound. And what kind of products then use high protein as the claim? Well, snacks is the leading category. And when we look at this in more detail, we know that over half of the snack products that use high protein as a claim are actually bars. Different kinds of energy bars, raw food, paleo, sports nutrition, protein bars, which is of course a very convenient format, and that's another trend that we've seen in the food industry within the last few years, the rise of on-the-go convenient formats. And of course, as we all know, insect protein is a highly nutritious, good quality ingredient for products like this. There's a high content of protein, there's unsaturated fatty acids, there's fiber, there's different kinds of minerals and vitamins. So insect protein is a perfect fit for this first market factor of a demand for high quality protein. Now, let's go into reason number 2, which is that edible insects fit well into processed foods. Now, there's a whole host of whole edible insect products, which are, many of them are branded quite nicely, and they are great as snacks or trying out edible insects. But what really opens up a lot of possibilities is processing the insects further into ingredients, because this makes it possible for them to be used in many different categories, such as snack bars, spreads, bakery biscuits, even ready-made meals. So this opens up a whole new avenue for edible insects. And if you're looking at a list of what kind of features food industry companies are looking for in their ingredients, taste and texture are something that edible insects have on their side. Taste is something that, for instance, a lot of plant-based proteins are struggling with, to get the taste right, to get the bitterness out, and to get a pleasant, nice taste. Whereas for insect protein, the taste is a kind of a nutty flavor. So that makes a new opportunity. And the texture is quite nice as well. Reason number 3 is that edible insects may help tackle the perceived badness of processed foods. Now, we know that there's been, for a few years now, a trend for natural, clean, free from ethical products in the food industry. Now, these are products that are free from gluten, free from lactose, free from preservatives, they're produced ethically, things like that. And edible insects fit in quite nicely into this trend as well. If we look at the list of possible features for good beneficial features for food processors, we see that edible insects actually tick the box on many of these. They're highly nutritious, they're healthy, they're gluten-free, they're sustainable when it comes to the environmental aspects, they're ethically produced, they're non-GMO, it's a highly pure form of protein. So this is actually something that could very well be used to sell edible insects to the food industry. Reason number 4 is that edible insects can offer cost benefits. And this is something that the food industry is always in the lookout for. And why edible insects could provide cost benefits? Well, they have a high reproduction rate, so they can be produced quickly. They use feed very efficiently compared to other animals. They could be fed waste streams from food production. Now, this is, of course, something that's regulated by the European Union rules. They require a minimum amount of water and energy to be produced. Again, when you compare to other kinds of animal protein, there's a minimal amount of waste produced because you can actually use almost all of the insect, whereas compared to something like poultry or pigs or cows, you cannot use the entire animal for food production. And last but not least, they produced not very much greenhouse gas emissions. So that's also something that's very beneficial for edible insects. And last but not least, perhaps most importantly, is that edible insects can create increased consumer loyalty for your products. Now we know from various studies that when consumers are choosing food products, they tend to go for the flavor, they tend to go for the price, quality, convenience. These are first priorities when they're looking for a food product. And this is something that insect products also need to offer. We know that sustainability quite often is a so-called third button to push. So it's something that very few consumers actually look for first and foremost when they're shopping for food products. It's something that needs to be there for many consumers, but not as the first feature when it comes to what the product is about. So there's a difference between creating a sustainable insect product, which brings to the foreground the fact that it's sustainable and it's made of insects, and a difference to making a great product, making a product that tastes good, is convenient, fits in with the consumer's lifestyle and whatever the consumer is looking for, and is made of insects and is very sustainable. So that's kind of something that we see as a route to really reach a mainstream market. And insect products have all the possibilities to do this. And while consumers are still looking for price and taste and aspects like that, responsibility aspects are something that can actually evoke emotional connection between the consumer and the product, because there's a difference between the consumer just randomly buying, just trying the product and not actually committing to the product. But when you bring in aspects of responsibility, you bring in traceability, transparency, trust, origin, you have the possibility to create a story, to create an identity for your product, and that creates loyalty, something for the consumers to actually grab a hold of in your product. So that's absolutely something that you have a possibility to make the consumers care about your products and about you. So, to sum up the 5 key reasons why edible insects could be a great business opportunity for the food industry. Number 1, there's a growing market demand and trend for high quality protein. And insect protein definitely is a high quality protein, so there's absolutely no reason why insect protein couldn't fit in just as well as pea protein or soy or any other protein source. Number 2, edible insects, they fit in well into processed foods when they're in an ingredient format, in a process format. And this offers up new opportunities for creating food products in different categories: ready-made meals, drink powders, or whatever. This opens up a whole host of opportunities. Number 3, it helps to tackle the perceived badness of processed foods. Insect protein fits in well with the clean label and natural trends. It's non-GMO, it's lactose-free, it fits in with things like paleo diet. So it's a good fit with this market trend as well. And number 4, edible insects can offer cost benefits. Once the production is in full industrial scale and everything is working out as it should be, it's definitely a benefit that edible insects could offer the food industry, and this is a benefit that the food industry is always looking for. And number 5, edible insects have the potential to create increased consumer loyalty, and especially the sustainability aspects that are inherent in edible insect products. They have the possibility to create commitment and create emotional connection between the consumer and the product and the brand. And this is something that the food industry, of course, is always also looking for, because this is the way to repeat purchases.